Mr. BK Gupta joins us, Managing Director with SBI. Mr. Gupta, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of the RBI instructions? Do you think this will free liquidity and banks would have more free hand to lend?
Yeah, good morning. Definitely, RBI had announced this measure in the last monetary policy itself, actually. So they have issued the guidelines yesterday. So all the retail loans will now carry a risk weight of 100% instead of 125%. I think in the press conference, RBI governor had said that the risk weights RBI had applied for the retail loans were higher than the international standards, so which they have now aligned more with the international standards. It definitely creates a lot of headroom for the banks, actually, in terms of improved capital adequacy ratios. So the bank should be able to lend much more. At this point of time, as you know, the liquidity is comfortable. So I think the whole effort of the government and the RBI is on to spur some kind of demand. So this is definitely a step in the right direction and should help the banks and the markets.
Help us understand, how will the bank's ability to lower rates be enhanced via this move and initiative by the RBI? And by how many bips will the rate on consumer loans actually contract as a result?
See, this helps basically in two ways. One is that on the existing portfolio itself, the risk weight goes down. So with the result that the capital adequacy ratio overall goes up for the banks as a result of this. This, of course, depends how much percentage of retail loans each bank has in its portfolios. So the capital adequacy ratio goes up. So which means it creates overall room for the banks to be able to lend more, actually. And definitely, as far as the retail loans itself are concerned, so if you apply a slightly lower risk weight, so your ROCs can go up slightly. So it creates a bit of an additional room. But I think you need to look at it probably more in terms of the overall ability of the banks to be able to lend more as a result of this action.
Okay. Mr. Gupta, can I say for a bank like State Bank of India, yes, this will free up the liquidity, but liquidity is not a problem. It is maybe the willingness of banks to lend or willingness of borrowers to borrow.
No, I think the willingness on the part of the banks to lend is definitely there. Otherwise, for the banks, it doesn't make sense to take deposits and park it in the government securities. You, in fact, carry a negative carry on some of this money that needs to be parked with on the government securities. I think the willingness to lend is definitely there, but it's a question of demand. I think what we have been seeing is a little reduced demand over the last few months, actually. So a lot of steps that have been taken. The festival season is already on. So hopefully some demand revival we should see in the coming months.
Just one point there, Mr. Gupta. Will this also not increase the risk profile of banks heavily geared towards consumer finance?
Yeah, but if you look at the portfolio of the consumer finance that the banks are holding, so the stress there is much, much lesser. I think the NPA ratios for most of the banks in the consumer finance have been good. I think the fact that, there are credit bureau scores, people are mindful of that. So we are not seeing much defaults happening on the consumer finance portfolios of the bank so far.
Mr. Gupta, thanks for joining us this morning and taking us through the latest move there by the RBI.